Hey guys, welcome back to the Car Enthuse YouTube channel. Today's video format is going to be just a little bit different than normal. We're going to go out of town this week, and so I decided I wanted to document how I maintain my car as someone who lives downtown in an apartment in a shared garage with no access to running water. I originally planned for this video to be a little bit more vlog-like, but quickly realized as I got out and started trying to take care of things for the day that it was Labor Day and everything is closed, so it didn't quite work out that way. So that's why we're gonna try this format. But before we jump into it, we've got nearly 100 subscribers and I need your help to get us there. If you find this or any of my previous videos interesting, please go ahead and subscribe. Liking this video helps, and as always, I love chatting with you guys in the comments, so let me know down below how you wash your car. I'm especially interested in hearing what other apartment living car enthusiasts are doing as well. Okay, let's jump into it. So just kind of going over my prep. I keep 4 buckets in my office closet that I use for washing the car. 3 of them are 3-gallon buckets. 2 of them I use for soap. 1 of them is a rinse bucket, and the other is just a 5-gallon bucket that I use for tools, supplies like that. So I will pull those out and using either the kitchen sink or the bathtub, I will fill those buckets up. I'm going to measure out my wash soap and use the appropriate ratio of soap to a 3-gallon bucket. In this case, I'm using a 20 milliliter quantity of soap for 3 gallons of water. And yeah, I'm mixing like milliliters and gallons instead of using ounces. I just find that milliliters to be a little bit more specific, and it's a little easier for me to scale that up for per number of gallons. Yeah. So I'll put soap in 2 of the buckets. One of them has a grit guard plus a grit guard washboard, I think they call it. You can get by with using 2 grit guards, but this bucket I use for my main paint wash soap. In the other soap bucket, I have just a single grit guard. This is going to be filled with the same dilution of soap to water, and this is what I'm going to use for cleaning my wheels. So this bucket is actually different than the other 2, and then it has like a slightly different handle, so that I know it's always going to be my wheel soap bucket, because you don't want to end up mixing up your wheel soap and your paint soap, especially when you're out just getting something done and you're in a hurry. And in general, I just try to avoid using harsh wheel soaps whenever possible, so I'm usually going to go for the same wash soap for my wheels as I do for the paint. So in that 3rd bucket, which is my rinse bucket, I have a grit guard, and I'm going to fill it up with water just about 1 to 2 inches above the top of the grit guard. This bucket doesn't need much water because it's going to end up having water transferred from the soap, and so it's going to fill up, and I don't want to have to dump it midway through a wash. So this is just a little bit easier. It gets me some water in there, and then I don't have to dump it more than once. So once the buckets are filled up, I'm gonna go through the annoying process of going and grabbing my car, moving it closer to the apartment so that I can wheel these buckets out. I stack them up. I have wheels, and I'm going to throw all the buckets on a stack, and I'm gonna wheel that out. And by bringing the car closer to the apartment, I'm not gonna have to worry about extra entryways to go in and out over different bumps. I'm gonna throw all 4 of those buckets in the trunk of the car. They all fit back there just fine. I've got Gamma sealed lids on all of them, so they'll be fine driving the like 15 miles that I drive to go to the car wash that I like, that I've found to work for me. So I do use a coin operated car wash, and just a few things about using that for an extended period of time. You need to go during off hours. Don't go at noon on a Saturday. If you can, try to go near or just after sunset when people aren't really there. If you're gonna go early in the morning, go around sunrise, try to beat other people to getting there. If you go when it's busy, just wait. Come back later if you can. Don't take up the only available bay. You're gonna take longer than everyone else. Your ability to come back and keep performing these types of washes is completely linked to your ability to not anger the other customers or the management of the car wash. So Just try to be mindful of that. Try not to get in other people's way and you should be fine. So I'm at the car wash. I'll unload all 4 buckets out of the trunk of the car. I'm gonna line them up against the wall of the washing bay. And the first thing that I'm gonna do is go through and just rinse the car off, knocking off any loose dirt. But the goal here is to go over the whole car, paying extra close attention to any of those extra dirty areas like the wheels, the tires, the fender liners, rocker panels. Also use this rinsing period to foam up your soap again. Just take the wash gun and just spray in the bucket, just a little bit of water. That'll kind of reactivate all the suds and everything there. So now that I've got the whole car wet, I'm gonna focus on just the wheels first. I find this to be one of the most tedious areas to clean, and this is the thing that I wanna get done first. I start by cleaning the wheels. If they're extra dirty and your car wash offers it, try to hit it with like a foaming soap, assuming that you trust the quality of the product that they're using there and you don't have any concerns about that being on your wheels. In this case, for this wash, I wasn't that worried about it. I felt like the soap that I had in my bucket was gonna do a good enough job, so I'm gonna stick with that. So going wheel by wheel, I'm going to start with my wheel soap bucket. I'm gonna pull that over and I'm going to grab a large kind of soft bristled brush, and I'm gonna go around the outer perimeter of the wheel and tire. I'm really focusing on the tire, but the brush is also gonna hit a little bit of the face of the wheel. It's a soft enough brush that I'm not worried about that doing any damage to the wheel whatsoever. So the goal here is I'm gonna get any loose dirt off that tire, it's gonna get any loose dirt off the edge of the wheel itself, and it's gonna start allowing some of that soap to kind of fall down the wheel, getting a little bit more product on the wheel itself. After that's done, I'm going to take a different kind of paintbrush looking soft bristle brush, and I'm gonna hit the lugs. I'm gonna try to hit those for about 5 seconds a piece. I'm also gonna use that brush to focus on the valve stem for the tire. So I'll go around that, just make sure that gets hit good, and then I'll also use that same brush to go over the caliper. After doing that, I'm going to use a combination of different wheel woolies to go through the inside of the wheel and clean out the barrel. And then lastly, I'm going to take a dedicated mitt that I use just for washing my wheels, and I'll go over the face of the wheel. I'm going to start from the top, doing the inside of the top, and then any crevices in the wheel, and moving down across both sides. The goal here being that the soap's going to start at the top and it's going to fall down, dirt's going to fall down with it, and as I go, it'll be easier and easier to clean the wheel as I get towards the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to do this for each wheel, and then the only real variance is going to be the size of the wheel woolies that I use for the different clearances that the different wheels allow front to back. This would be a good time to go through and just spray off your wheels. If you are using a credit card, debit card, and you have like a 3-minute minimum, which is what I had at this car wash, you can skip it and you can go to the washing step. But it is nice to be able to stop here, spray off the wheels, and give one quick spray to the rest of the car just to make sure that the car is well lubricated for the next step of washing the paint. And I'm going to use a traditional 2-bucket method. I'm going to go panel by panel. I'm going to start from the top of the car, starting with the roof, also making sure to squeeze the wash mitt that I'm using to get any extra soap running down the side of the car. I'm going to stop on the sides and the front fender before I hit the lower 12 to 18 inches. This is a dirtier area than the higher up sections of the car, so I'm going to come back to those later whenever I'm done washing the more clean areas. And then I'll finish on the lower rear bumper, which at least on my car is the dirtiest section. So after all of that washing is done, pretty standard washing stuff, I'm going to go back and I'm going to rinse the car off. This will be my final rinse. So in this case, where I'm only rinsing the car, the initial pre-rinse and then the final rinse, I'm going to make sure that I'm really diligent about hitting the wheels, hitting all of the paint, rinsing from the top down so that I'm not accidentally leaving like soap in some areas if I'm just spraying sporadically. And then I'm gonna pull out of the wash bay basically as quickly as I can. I'm just trying to free up this wash bay so that I'm not a nuisance. So I'll call this whole next portion just kind of finishing the wash, finishing cleaning the car. And so I'm going to move over to the vacuum area in my particular car wash. It's covered, so it's shaded. And this is where I'm gonna dry off the car. For this, I'll usually bring several microfiber towels, including one really large plush towel that I'm gonna use for the very final step of my dry. I'll use a drying aid. In this case, I'm finishing off a gallon that I have of Adams H2O Garden Gloss, and I will spray the towel and a little bit on the panels, and I will go over that with a microfiber towel, just kind of doing an initial like drying and making sure that everything is spot free, which is also going to apply some of that garden gloss to the car. And then I will come back over that with a plush towel and just buff off any residue left by that garden gloss. So this is also a really good time to wipe down the face of your tires as well with a spare microfiber. Doesn't need to be a very clean one. just something to dry off the face of the tire in order for you to apply any kind of tire dressing that you might want to apply. This case, I did have some that I found in the back of my closet that I wanted to just kind of finish out. And I'm actually liking the results so far, but I went ahead and applied that for this wash as well. If I didn't have to travel to wash my car, I'd also clean the windows at this point, but because I have about a 15-mile drive and I generally like to be able to crack the windows while I drive, I'm not gonna do that for this particular wash until I get back to the house. When I get back to the house, get back in the garage, I'll park it up and I will make sure the windows are dry, and then I'll go ahead and I'll use Stoner's Invisible Glass, clean the windows off, and do any kind of final touch-up because it's a 15-mile drive if I need to use a quick detailer to get off any bugs that I might have hit on the way home. And that's pretty much it. That's my whole process. This is everything that I do for a regular maintenance wash, and I try to do this every 2 weeks. If the car gets filthy in between, I'll do it more often than that. But what I ideally like to do is this wash, and then in the next week, if the car is not too dirty, I'll just use a no rinse wash, like Optimum no rinse in the garage. That way I don't have to drive to go do all of this. And then I'll do, you know, the tire dressing and the window cleaning and everything just directly in the garage. But again, if the car gets really dirty, then I'll have to do this wash more regularly. This is kind of what I'm doing to maintain the car while I live in the area that I live in with a shared garage, and I just don't have access to running water. So yeah, apartment living definitely has its perks, but as a car enthusiast, it can be a headache to maintain a car living in a shared space like this. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments below if you found this useful. As always, I would encourage you to find me on Instagram, interact with me there too, and I'll see you guys in the video next week. Thanks.